How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to In the Sand podcast. I'm excited as ever for you to be back for another episode. So as always, please like, please share, and please subscribe as we continue to produce great content. I have another great coach on. Excited to have on Coach Wright. Coach Wright is definitely a figure here in the state of Mississippi when it comes to basketball. I know he may not have all the Mississippi roots, but again, we're excited to have him here in Mississippi. If you know Coach Wright, you know he's a family man. You know that he cares about individuals, his teams. They play super hard and they become a part of his family. Very energetic guy, and you see that in his team's play. And just a guy that's just full of wealth and knowledge. So I'm just excited to be able to talk to Coach Wright. Tried to set this up in season one, but we got to go into season two. So it just shows you he's faithful and just a great person to be around. So, Coach Wright, thank you, man, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, man, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. Looking forward to talking with you for a little while and digging into some basketball. So, man, thanks again for having me.
Oh yeah, Coach Wright, I definitely had to do it, man. Coach, you've been again a staple here in Mississippi. Again, been doing some great things. I'm excited to talk about the Region 23 tournament. I know it didn't necessarily go the way you wanted it, but I'm excited to be able to just kind of talk about this some. But before I do that, Coach, I've been doing my homework, doing my research, and I'm excited to hear your story because your story is different. Your journey is amazing. Had some ups and had some downs, but I'm really just excited just to learn from you. So, Coach, talk to us about how the game of basketball and your journey has brought you to Northeast Mississippi, um, here in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, man. I guess I can go all the way back to as far as you want to go, but I've started college basketball or basketball in general has obviously been in my blood and been in my life for as long as I can remember anything. My dad was a Division I college basketball coach for 25 plus years, and then got into the high school ranks to finish out his career. And so I played college basketball, played at the junior college level, and then went on to Division II. So um, I knew basketball was always going to be the center of my life. Obviously, through my dad and stuff of that nature, I naturally gravitated towards, hey, look, as soon as I get the opportunity, I want to coach. And I was fortunate right out of college. I was given a student assistant spot at the school I played at, Limestone College up in South Carolina. And so I jumped right into that for a year. Then I got into the junior college scene at Spartanburg Methodist with Dale Cool. He was a fresh young coach as well, and he had recruited me a little bit from junior college, knew who I was, and so gave me that opportunity. And then from there, it just kind of was all about relationships. Dale Cool had recruited me out of junior college. I ended up working with him at Spartanburg Methodist. Bobby Champagne then got the head job at North Alabama. Bobby played for my dad at South Alabama. I've grown up with Bobby. Bobby was from Lafayette, Louisiana, like I was. And so when he got that call to get the head job, he called me, wanted to know if I wanted to be a GA. And, naturally you want to jump right into getting paid. And that's what but it was the perfect move for me because I really needed to get my master's. I wanted to have that underneath my belt. And so Coach Champagne gave me that opportunity, worked with him for 2 years as a GA, and then our assistant moved on. And when he left, he bumped me up. So spent another 7 years with him at North Alabama. Had a tremendous amount of success. Owe a lot to Coach Champagne. He's now at Houston with Kelvin Sampson. So success is definitely something he's used to over there as well. But and then from there, man, you talk about relationships and where it puts you. One afternoon, I was helping a guy with a recruit, and he said, "Would you be interested in going to Louisiana Monroe?" And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like what I got to do? What's the situation? And at the time, Keith Richard was leaving LSU as an assistant, taking a job at Louisiana Monroe. I knew Coach Richard, but not anything on a great terms. And Tim Floyd put us together and went down there and talked to him one time. He hired me. Spent 3 years there, and that was my path. I kind of at that point, hey, look, I've been a junior college assistant. Now I've been a D2 assistant. Now I'm, at the time, probably I got to be less than 30 years old. I'm right in Division I. And so I thought everything was on that path to, being the next head coach at whatever major university you think of and you enjoy. And then for whatever reason, just sitting around the office one afternoon, one of our assistants said to us, "Hey man, Northeast Mississippi junior college job is going to be open." He said, "You ought to apply if you think it's something." I was like, well, I'd been over here quite a bit recruiting, especially from North Alabama. And so I just was like, well, it's always been a good job. It seemed like a good location. Let me throw my name in the hat and see what happens. And lo and behold, I was kind of went through the process, and they hired me. So I went ahead and jumped on it, took the opportunity, and didn't really think junior college was going to be my path. I thought that, but an opportunity to be a head coach. And I'd always been told, be a head coach as soon as you can, whatever level that might be for you, but get there because it's so much different. I know as an assistant coach for however many years I was, probably 13, 14 years as assistant coach, you always are making suggestions, and it's a lot easier, to tell somebody what you think should happen, but it's also a lot different when you're the one making the call. So we always joke about moving 6 inches over to the left can change a lot of things, but I got that opportunity. Dr. Johnny Allen was our president, but he was on his way out, and Ricky Ford, who was our vice president, who's now our president, was the one that, initially did the interviews and stuff of that nature. And, man, I jumped on this deal, been here, obviously, 11 years. And if you'd have told me I'd have been here 11 years ago, I'd have said there's no way, no how. But it's kind of truly become a place that I love to be at. I don't look at other places and leaving, and it's just been great. And I'm hoping that we just finished 11. I'm hoping that come June 1st or July 1st, I get another contract to do 12.
Coach, I don't foresee that they wouldn't offer you year 12, but I love your humble spirit. Coach, you got an amazing story, Coach, and you have a path, as I'm looking at my notes, you have a path that is unique in and of itself. And the key word that I like, Coach, is relationships. That's so important. And I was talking on a previous podcast with my guy, Dr. Baghurst from Florida State, and he was talking about how in his research he realized that 70% of most jobs are already gone or they're already taken because people are leaning on those prior relationships. And so we began to talk about networking, and we talked about some people don't like networking, some people do like it, but he was saying network is more of a skill. And we got to start seeing it as a skill, not necessarily a like or dislike, because it makes a difference. And Coach, I like this journey. And you had a lot of people in your life who gave you an opportunity or presented an opportunity, I would say, to help you continue to further your career. Coach, talk to me about this. You said you started off as a student manager, is that correct?
A student assistant, yeah.
Student
But
assistant.
you can call it a manager if you want.
All right. So with the student assistant, did someone present that to you, or did you already know like this is the path that I'm gonna need to take to be able to go and further myself in this college career?
Well, kind of a combination. Like I said, my dad was a college coach, so he had already kind of laid out a path, and he gave me some understanding. He kind of had some ground rules or some things that you got to do to get in the game. And the most important thing, he was just like, hey, get in. Wherever somebody's going to give you an opportunity, we all want to make money, we all want to do this, but at the end of the day, you got to get that opportunity. So I had already kind of knew my path or what I wanted to get involved in. And so, at the end of my senior year, I'd already planted the seed with my head coach. Said, hey, look, I'd like to stay on. I'd like to be a student assistant for a year, learn from you guys. Obviously I was familiar with the school and the surroundings. So it wasn't a transition in terms of getting to know a whole new place. It was a transition from becoming a player to now trying to be a coach. And, they gave us a lot of freedom. They let us to, kind of get our feet wet in recruiting in terms of making some calls. And, a lot of times as student assistants and your main job, was player development, get guys on the floor, work them out. You're fresh off the floor. You're a little more agile and athletic than some of the older coaches. And so that path just kind of went right to me.
Coach, I like that. And again, student assistant, I'm sorry about that, not student manager. I think that's important, and I said this on a previous podcast, and I think it's important, and that's why we kind of love the podcast because it's good to share this information. Because coming up, I wish that I probably would have known some of these things because it's a little bit more challenging, when you start off in high school and try to move up through the college ranks because you miss a lot of key relationships. Majority of relationships that you have, they are in the high school area or the high school realm. So it makes it a little bit more challenging. And so I always share to my young guys and young ladies, if college coaching is what you want to participate in, definitely take advantage of that while you're in school. If you have to, maybe if you can't be a student assistant coach, maybe be the manager, student manager, so you can be around the game, try to get in the GA position because those are going to be, excuse me, that is the arena where you need to be because you can meet a lot of people, you have those relationships, and then like even with your path, people are able to share your name, say you might want to check this guy out and kind of validate who you are as an individual. Coach, I'm loving that you said the getting paid part. I don't think people realize, or people outside of coaching realize how tough it is sometimes to be, a student assistant coach. Sometimes to even be an assistant coach at the D3 level, D2 level, even on a JUCO level, because a lot of times the pay is not very high. Sometimes you have to stay on in that dorm. Sometimes you get a meal plan. So, Coach, talk to us a little bit about that path. I know you really spent a lot of time there, but I know there may be someone listening and trying to figure out. And I like to better present them with all of the resources that they can. Talk about that I call it the journeyman role of being in those positions where the stipend is not very high. If you have one, the living situation, you kind of got to work that out. If you could just talk about that and share that information to our listening guests.
Yeah, man. Like, you know, I can't speak on behalf of a lot of other professions, but I know in college basketball in itself, you see the guys on TV and you see their 5 year deals and they're this and all those other kind of contracts that make you say, man, that's what I want to do. All they do is coach basketball and they make $1 million and da da da. And man, and that's true. I mean, those guys do make that type of money, but you look at the percentage of the guys in the business, and that's a very very small margin. And so you gotta get in this business with the understanding that it's all about your work, man. You're going to get opportunities that you present to yourself from working. And the first couple jobs, that I got, and I know a lot of guys coming up to the business didn't pay you anything. I mean, my first year, I think, if I'm not mistaken, when I was at my junior college assistant's job, I think I got $2,000 for the year. I worked at Applebee's. Yeah, I mean, it was the $2,000. I mean, when you offer me that for the year, you're kind of thinking that doesn't even really count. That's probably my gas getting back and forth throughout the year. But I worked at Applebee's. I was a server, and that's how I made my money to kind of survive. And I mean, you got to understand also, I was fortunate. My mom and dad really, helped guide me along the way. They were there to support me. Through because they knew the path was going to be rough when you get started with finances, and even then, I left to go be a GA at North Alabama, and I was making $800 a month, which at the time I thought was a pretty good living, from the standpoint of I had a steady income in terms of that was what I was getting, but it was just a stipend, $800, and then I think my rent was $200 or $400. So, you had to learn how to manage and do stuff. But if you worried about the dollars, you were never going to really make it in this profession, and I feel like a lot of times in life it's like that. We all want to have money, but if that's your sole plan is to make money, it's hard sometimes to not to dive into the work you got to do. And, when you're a student assistant, a GA, assistant coaches at different levels. I mean, and I even joke at times at being a head junior college coach. I mean, I got probably the best assistant coach, if not in the state, but in the country. He's tremendous at what he does. He's associate head coach, but I always laugh in terms of when I deal with him. We're best friends and stuff, but I tell him, like, I feel as a head coach here, I'm still the first assistant because if I got to check the laundry and I got to check travel stuff, and so he does a great job of that as well. But your roles really never really change. And so being that I did that stuff when I was coming up, you're familiar with it. It's just part of it. But there's a lot of behind the scenes. There's a ton of hours. If you try to if you try to count how much you get paid for the hours you put in, it'll make you cry at times to think about what you're doing. So it's not about that, man. It's just about, they always use the word, it's a grind. I don't necessarily love that word, but it has its value when you talk about this profession. And there's a lot of, it's tough. It is a very, very, very tough profession, and it's not getting any easier, because of just the different guys that are getting jobs. There's a lot of former players that are getting jobs that are jumping, maybe jumping some steps. They earned it a different way. So you can't, be upset about that path, but, it's just a different deal. But you're going to have to work. You're going to have to really, really fight the path. And you got to really love to do what you're doing, because the money is not really, unless you're fortunate to get in that upper half, it's not what you're in it for.
Coach Wright, I hear the wisdom in your voice, man, and just hearing you talking and listening to you talk, it sounds like you a blue collar coach. Like guys got to work and get at it, because you realize, and I think that's what one thing that makes you a great coach. And I don't know if people realize that, is that your path was about working hard. It wasn't given to you, and so I can just see that bleeding through you just talking to you, and I know you implement that into your players, because you realize even though things have changed, technology has changed, the kids, as they say, have changed, parents have changed. We can agree to disagree on that, but the one thing that hasn't changed that we can confirm on is hard work. And that's one thing that I feel that we as coaches, no matter who we have, where we are, where we coach, that won't change, coach. And that blue collar mentality and that attitude it will take you a long way. To me, I believe in most professions, coach. So I hear that wisdom, and I'm hoping and praying that somebody's listening to what you're saying, because you really dropping a lot of facts with that, coach. Because I give so much respect, especially to our junior college coaches here in the state of Mississippi, because you said it, coach, and I didn't realize that someone said it to me. Y'all do just as much work, probably more than some Division I coaches, because when someone broke it down, they said, "Coach, we got to recruit. We have games. We know we have skill development. We have to check grades. We have to do all of these things probably with a limited staff. I mean, we have great assistants, but I guess you say, we're grinding, or we're working hard every single day. So I don't know if the average fan knows that, but that is an amazing thing that I see daily just from junior college coaches that I talk to or have talked to on a regular basis. Let me look at. I like this, coach. You said this. You talked about Coach Champagne. Is it Champagne? Did I say that right, or did I pronounce it? I hope I said that right.
Yep.
All right. At the University of Houston, I'm gonna ask this question. I don't know if you can give us too much information, but I'm hoping you can for the fans. Houston is known for rebounding. Can you kind of give us some insight about, like, how do they get those guys to just rebound consistently and just kind of be the staple of what rebounding looks like? Because I know as I've grown to coach, I see that rebounding is so important. Growing up, you hear on the outside, offense sells tickets and defense does this, and that is true. And of course, Coach Sampson is big on rebounding, because he got a statement he says about rebound. I can't think of it now, but can you give us some insight about how they implement their program and some things they even just talk about or share about the rebounding process?
Well, I'll say this, because I speak with Coach Champagne once a week, if not more than that, of course, during the season. But the one thing that he expressed to me is, you cannot you cannot do what they do,
Hmm.
because Sampson is an elite coach. He's one of the best to ever do it. And part of the reason that he does it, because he does it, it's every day in everything they do, whether it's how you get up in the morning to where you're getting your water at to how you're practicing. So it's not that, from what I've gathered, it's not so much as the emphasis on this particular rebound. The emphasis on being relentless, the emphasis being on being tough, the emphasis is doing everything you can to the highest to your ability, day in and day out, no matter what you're doing. So everything they do is at a high level. And, I talked to him about some of their practices and what they do. And he's like, man, like, I thought we were going hard. He said, these guys are on a whole nother level. And, I know a lot of people talk of culture, but That's true culture of what they got going on there. Because I look at it from the standpoint of it can't be replicated. Like it's not something that, oh, they do this, so I'm going to go do this and be good at it too. No, it's Samson's way of doing it every day. So the rebounding is what might stand out, but if you watch them play, which I love watching them play,
Yes.
it's everything that they do. I mean, from checking in and out of games to how they get to each other on the bench to, how they guard ball screens in the 1/3 of the floor, the corner, the side. I mean, it's just their attention to detail. So rebounding stands out because that's what, a lot of times on TV they talk about, and they are very, very good at it. But I think it's the whole nature of what they do. So it's really hard to say, you know, uh, why are they good at this or how they do this. I don't think it's a drill. I don't think it's just they're relentless in their pursuit every single day in everything they do. And that's hard to replicate.
Coach, I thank you for the insight. I heard Coach Sampson also say one time is that the head coach got to be one of the better individuals or the best player that or the best person in that program that day. And the point guard got to be the same. So that kind of ties in what you're saying is that he looks at himself at the accountability part. And if I can do it every single day, these are the things that I expect. And you see that, Coach. And that's the kind of coaching that you enjoy seeing. I know they're similar. I kind of see that with Tom Izzo a little bit. Even Bob Huggins. I was I studied Bob Huggins and just what he demanded and just his intensity of it, and what he expected from his guys. And so you kind of see that as you go throughout. Coach, let's talk about your time here in Northeast Mississippi. Coach, I'm gonna open up with this first. This is a big one. North Mississippi basketball. Now, everybody, of course, has their preferences. Some people like the metro area basketball here in Mississippi. Some people go for the coast area. Some people like the Pine Belt area. But North Mississippi basketball is special in and of itself. And I know I'm gonna transition more to the high school side because I know sometimes that's kind of implemented where you are. But coach, what makes North Mississippi and the history of it since you've been here so far and what you learned? What makes North Mississippi so special that can't be replicated anywhere throughout the state?
Man, that's a great point, and they just love basketball. It's amazing, because we're in the South and we naturally gravitate. First thing we think about is football, and then spring football, and then hey, where's basketball? And especially in our 5 county area where we're located, but just across North Mississippi in general, like they really, really, truly love basketball. We
Yeah,
obviously have a passion for football like everybody else, but these are the local high schools around here. You go to a game and it's a big deal, and they have a full crowd, and they're talking about it on Thursday before they play on Friday, and they're either happy or sad at the coffee shop on Saturday. I mean, it's a fun place to be. We have tremendous coaches in our area that obviously allow these kids to be better players as well. They're not just rolling the ball out and going and hooping. There's some
yeah,
skill, there's some teaching, there's some good basketball going on. I mean, you look at the state champions over the last couple of years. I mean, obviously Boonville's had a heck of a run with 3 in a row, but then you got the Biggersvilles, you got the new sites, you got the Belmonts, you got the Baldwins. New Albany's had their run. West Union. I mean, it's just Corinth had their stretch back a couple of years ago when they were. So I mean, the basketball in this particular area, and I think it just has a lot to do with the fact that they love playing. Their fans support them, and it's like a little religion here when it comes to
yeah.
the hoops up here. And so it's been fun, and we just try to hopefully do our part on the college level to continue to get people to understand that we love it too.
Yeah, coach. I really got introduced into the North Mississippi basketball maybe about 5 or 6 years ago when I was at my previous school. We had to play New Site in the second round. And so, coach, I look on the map and I realize how far we have to go. And so we get a few fans coming. Again, I've been studying the film. I've been studying film, watching it. So, coach, we get to the arena. We get out there. We stretch. We get off the bus. And so I think the administrator tells us he was like, he was pretty much saying, I hope your fans get here early because like this is the section that we have. But what he was telling me is they sit on both sides. And so thank God our fans rode the bus with us, our charter bus, and they were there. But coach, if our fans would have been there on time, they would have had nowhere to sit. They're sitting on both sides. And coach, it is serious in that one. So that was a great experience
Yeah.
for my guys at New Site, man. And all those schools that you named are so rich in basketball. So coach, let me ask you this. It's probably a two-part question. Coach Stevens and I talked about this last episode. Coach Stevens at Colin. We talked about because she's at Colin, and there are a lot of local schools right there in that particular area that's close to the school, 30, 45 minutes, some even closer than that. And I know you're in the same boat. Coach, do you feel any, I'm not saying pressure, but is it a challenge sometimes to kind of figure out the recruitment part? What I mean recruitment part is that sometimes the local schools feel like because Northeast is in our backyard and we got these great players at this particular level at our smaller 1A school or our 2A school and even the bigger programs, and they some reason I feel like they expect the home school to just pick up everybody in the area. And obviously, we know we can't do that. So, can you kind of talk to us about that? I know Coach Stevens gave me her perspective. I just kind of want to see that. And the reason I asked Coach, because one time when I was at a game and I was coaching against a previous coach, and he was saying, man, the schools never come watch me because my kid is 1 to 2A, and this kid could probably help them out. And so I was like, yeah, you're probably right. But then when I looked at the situation and the coach explained it, he was like, yeah, there is a good player, but does it fit to what we're trying to do? So, coach, just kind of talk to me about how do you kind of manage that? Because I know it's probably, I'm not gonna say stressful or pressure, but I know it's probably some things that may make it challenging for you. I don't know if I'm trying to say it the right way, but I'm just trying to figure out how does that process work for you.
No, I mean everything. All the words you use are exactly. They play a factor into it. I mean, like I said, we we're in an area that obviously, like we just talked about, loves basketball. So they naturally are going to pay attention to what we're doing over here. Then on top of that, like I said, like our area schools are very good. They're all state champions. And so obviously with state championships and everybody having success, you would naturally think everybody's got a player that should come play for you. And, it is a hard situation. There's a lot of, you use the word pressure. There's times where there's some pressure from people to say, hey, look, you need to take this kid, or why don't you have this guy here, or stuff of that nature. But, that's just decisions. Like I said, when you're an assistant coach, you can make those suggestions and, hey, we want this. But when you're a head coach, you got to be able to make tough decisions. And, a lot of times it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And you just got to have a tough backbone. The one thing that I've learned through being a head coach, and obviously all my head coaching experience has been from here. The two things that I've kind of learned that help solve those problems. There's no easy answer to your question. I mean, yes, you want to take care of your local product, and anytime you can keep them here, it's a positive thing, especially if they get here and have success. It does help your crowd and their attendance and the people because like we talked about, the other high schools that come and support you throughout the season. So you want to have that relationships. The two things, like I was going to say, that I think really help our situation, or what I've learned from, is number one, our administration here is as good as any administration I've ever been around of in college. My time in college, from our president to our vice president to our athletic directors, all the way down, they understand what we're trying to do. They understand how we want to do it. And so they're in full support of what we're doing. They make suggestions if they feel there needs to be a certain one made. But for the most part, they understand that, hey, look, we're not trying to not take a kid for a personal reason or something. If that doesn't fit, then why do it? And then the other part that solves as many problems as probably anybody will say is you got to win. If you're winning, sometimes people will look past that and say, hey, you know what? They didn't do this, but hey, look, they're putting a good product on the floor. You're losing. Everybody questions everything. It doesn't matter whether it's the player, the coach, the foul, the play call, the defense. So have good administration is aligned with what you're trying to do, which we can check that box here, and then win games. And we've been fortunate in that area to win. So it doesn't mean it makes things easy, but it does sometimes soften the blow when you make tough decisions, which we all have to do. So
Coach, man, I thank you for that transparency. And that's kind of the reason I really started the podcast, is because I think sometimes people forget that we're human. And sometimes people forget that the same things that they demand of us, it's the same thing that is on their job, but they're just not in a public area where people can see it. And so I like that you said that, because that is truth. And I took that to heart with me, because I said, this has always been my thing. If a kid can help a program, then that coach or coaches will see to it that they're on their roster. If this the question, or maybe not on the roster or being recruited, it may be something that they just don't have at that time, something that may not be their, maybe a skill they haven't developed yet, or it's just not a good fit. And so I'm glad that you said that, Coach. And I love that you have the confidence to be able to stand on what you believe in, because it makes a difference. And you said it, Coach, at your level, you're trying to keep your job, and I'm guessing advance more. So it can't be we just picking everybody because you live this way. We have to put the best product on the floor. And I think I don't know. I'm not gonna say I think. I know through the years that has been shown. So, Coach, keep on doing what you're doing. So, with that being said, Coach, I know it's a 11-year going on 12-year window, but can you just kind of talk about some of the highs and some of the lows at Northeast? And then I want to kind of get in some things specifically from this year, but just talk about that journey, because I don't know if you really sat down and I know you have. So I'm not gonna say I don't know if you have or not. But sometimes when I look back, if I've been in a place a long time, I've been doing something for a long time, it's often good for me to reflect and be like, man, time has flown, and look what has changed, look what has grown, look how things are differently. So, Coach, talk to us about your journey at Northeast, and give us some highs, some lows, maybe some things we don't know, because obviously you put a great product on the floor, but I know there's some things behind the scenes that people just don't see on an everyday grind that you have been through in your journey.
Yeah, man. I guess it is. I finished 11 years, and I guess I kind of tell the story. My lows started when I first got here. I guess it's a high low like situation, if you want to call it. But my high was getting a job. Hey, look, here I am, head coach, junior college, well known across the country. A lot of success over the years. It had some down years prior to us getting here, but across the country, it was Northeast is well known, and so there was a high to get this job. The low came my first year when we won 5 games, and I tell the story because I think it's funny, and it's even funnier now because we've had some success. But after my first year, the recruiting was different then. You could recruit the state, but by April 8th, everybody had already signed. And I didn't get the job till end of May, 1st of June. So pretty much when I got here, there wasn't only players left were the players that were here. And 2 of the better players were transferring to another school. So, we had some local players that were good. There was some talent, but, obviously had a lot of work to get done. They didn't win a whole lot the year previously before. And I had a kid that I was recruiting in Louisiana Monroe named Mario Jackson, and was recruiting him. And when I got this job, he said he wanted to come with me, and so I ended up taking him with me. And but I say it's a funny story because we won 5, but when I tell the story, we were closer to winning 2 than we were winning 6. We had 3 shots that we won. We won at the end of the buzzer. My first college win as a head coach was at Gadsden State. And we were down by 2, like 2 seconds to go in the game. They're shooting free throws. The kid misses. My kid grabs it and chunks it from the other free throw line, banks it in, and we win the game by 1. I run around the gym like I'd won a national championship. I high-fived the coach of the other team. I felt like a complete fool, but I didn't know, 1, it was just a crazy win. 2, it was my first win. And so I looked around. I had to go back and apologize to the coach and say, look, man, I meant to shake your hand, not high five you, but you'd have thought we'd won the whole thing. But and so he was cool with it all. He understood the situation. But and so Mario Jackson with me, he had 2 of the game winners. And so I could tell him, and he went on to become an All-American for me. And he's now actually a college coach doing a great job in Louisiana. But so we had 5 wins that year. And like I'd say, we were closer to 2 than we were 6. So, some rough times. That particular year, you coming from, and you think everybody thinks when you get into this, you're going to coach, and I'm gonna do this, and this, and I'm gonna have instant success. And I learned very quickly that it's a lot more about the Jimmies and the Joes and the X's and O's. So we went out and did some recruiting. That following year, my assistant that was with me had left, so I brought in Kyle Morris, who's now been with me 10 of my 11 years. And Kyle was at North Alabama. We were GAs. When I left from being a GA, he took over. So we had a prior relationship. And if he tells a story, he's been here for the 10 winning seasons, and he wasn't here for the one losing one. So, but then that whole thing changed because it got into recruiting, and it was like, hey man, who can we go get, and where's this? And recruiting's tough in Mississippi. For a lot of different reasons. One, there's so many junior colleges, 15 of us that are competing for, top talent in the state every year. There's a lot of built-in relationships with coaches in high schools because they're a lot of coaches that are Mississippi are from here, played here. So they got a lot of ties to other guys that you got to overcome to sell your program. So, but we were able to get some quality players. In the following year, we won 18. So we went from 5 to 18 and really kind of flipped the script. And then from there, it's just kind of the following year, we really knocked it out of the park. We killed it in recruiting, from Shaq Buchanan to Wesley Harris to Kendarius Smith, Trey Lawson. And we really got some dudes in here. And that followed by third year, we won the league. Went to the region tournament, won it in the championship game, hit a game winner, and went on to Hutch. So, there's some highs of that nature that are included in our path here. And then, from there, man, it's, you're going to have some lows, but our lows have not been like it was when we first got started and trying to win games. We've had, you hate to over talk about it, I guess, but, we have had success. Continuing to have success at this level is always the hard thing, and really, if you pay attention to our league, there's a lot of teams that, they peak and then they disappear for a while and they come back. And, I think, and I mean, obviously I get credit for a lot of it because I'm the head coach, but my staff, whether it's been Coach Morris, that's been with me for the 11 years, 10 years, or all the volunteers instead to come through. But, our success has been pretty up and up each and every year. You might have a down year of 2 years ago we won 18 again, and this year we won 27. So there's been some ups and downs, of course, but our down is not very far, and so we're 1 or 2 players away from getting it back up. And I don't say that to brag or boast. I just kind of feel good about what we've done and the people that are surrounding us that are making this thing work. And the one negative is we've been to Hutch once, and this school wants you back there. We've had a couple of different opportunities. We got beat in the championship game, got upset one year in the semifinals. So those are the downs because, we look at getting to the region tournament as something we're going to do, but, we got to get over there and win it. And, we've had some teams that were right there, but couldn't get over the hump. And that's something that we continue every day. I mean, we had a great year this year, but, we didn't finish it the way we wanted it. So, and that's kind of what we've kind of set the standard for us is, hey, look, man, there's good years and we're going to have those hopefully, but we got to get back to getting to Kansas and being competitive on that national level.
Coach, that's amazing to be able to have that type of journey so far in these 11 years. And you're right. Sometimes you have this vision in your mind that it's going to be great. It's going to be perfect. There's going to be some lows, but you don't really expect 5 wins. You don't really expect anything lower than that. You expect success. And it does take a time to figure it out and just be in the right place. I can remember when I got my first head coaching job, my first season, we won 4 games, 4-24. And you're right, Coach, man. Them days drag along. You start questioning yourself. But eventually it gets together, Coach. And you right, Coach. Man, we might have been closer. I like that statement. I'm going to use that because we might have been closer to probably 2 wins then 5 because I know one of them was a game winner. It's funny when you having a bad season. If for some reason you hit game winners for some reason, I don't know if it's contagious or how it works, but I know we had one game winner. One of the games somebody was hurt, and I can't remember the other one. But like I said, we were closer to 2 than we were 5. So any coaches listening, stay encouraged. If you hear Coach Wright's stories, definitely stay encouraged. Coach, I got this down. I want to ask about this. Um, in the junior college level, and you said it right, it's so competitive. You can each year you can kind of pinpoint. You can see some teams doing well. A lot of different schools, and everybody does it differently. Like if you look at each JUCO, if you look at the coach, you look at their scheme, it's kind of similar, but everybody has their own little thing, which makes it challenging. And it's amazing to see that. And so I'm thinking of transfer portal, I'm thinking NIL, but I'm always thinking about something that the JUCO colleges always had to deal with, in my personal opinion, is you get a kid in, and I heard you talk about this in another interview. You get a kid in for 2 years, and so I would like you to talk to us about the maturation of a kid. Like you get them fresh out of high school, and we all know what it looks like. Most kids are not prepared physically, obviously, not prepared mentally. As high school coaches, we do our best, and we say we're getting you ready, but we can do it to a certain extent because we're limited with time, resources, the talent around them. So we can give them a little bit, but it's always a learning curve for our freshmen. So, Coach, talk to us about how do you kind of get that kid to kind of mature throughout it, because you got it for 2 years. I know it's a little different now because some people are using, and I think people probably always maybe use JUCO as a landing spot, but sometimes people want to go, let me go 1 year instead of 2 years now. And there's nothing wrong with it all. It's just the landscape has changed. So just talk to us about that whole journey, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think being now that I've seen it, I've been Division I, Division II, and junior college. Every level's got its transition, and I think in junior college in Mississippi so different because 90% of our kids, I mean, 11 out of the 15 roster spots are going to be kids from Mississippi. And so where the transition becomes hard for the young men is that they all were probably the best player on their high school team. And
Yep.
so now you're going to take, on a given year, 6 or 7 new kids to your program, and they're all coming with the idea that they're going to be the man here. And that's not going to happen. I mean, not all 6 can be. And
Yep.
and so they take that. Sometimes they got away with some things in high school that
Yep. Yep.
their work ethic, and not some of the top programs in the state that do a great job. It's not their fault. The kids don't see it. And then
Yep.
they get here and they realize, oh, well, that dude over there is pretty good, or that dude over there. I mean, and that the strength and the speed and the strength are always an issue. They're always going to have to get stronger, get bigger, get faster, like everybody says. But I just think that the ones that you occasionally have some kids that are going to get in the sun when they're going to grind, they're going to work, they're going to do what they got to do, and they're coming in just a little bit more. And no matter, we just the other day sent out to our kids that we've signed, hey, look, here's some things that you need to get ready for. Here's some things you need to kind of prep yourself for. Hope you've been in the gym. Because, I think they have a tremendous senior year, and then they signed and they think, okay, it's over. Well, for a lot of them, it's about to begin.
Yeah.
And when you get here, and we're fortunate that, we got 6 or 7 really good players coming back. Well, we got 6 or 7 kids that, we've brought in that we feel like are going to be really good as well. So you're sitting there like, hey, man, you got to bring it, you got to have, and if you fall behind early, it hurts them because you got to be tough. And if you haven't put in that work, and a lot of these kids haven't had a whole lot of failure in their life, they've been successful. They've through AAU or high school, they've always been, hey man, or when things didn't go good today at practice, coach told them that tomorrow it'll be okay. Well, they get here and it might not be okay the next day because that other kid's going to try to kick your tail again. So, so it's a tough transition. A lot of guys, a lot of them make it, but there's many of them that just can't do it. But one thing I've always said, and actually today I was speaking to a guy on campus about some recruiting and different things, and the one thing that I told him was the number one thing that I've learned over my years in Mississippi is you got to be tough. And I know everybody talks about it, and there's, of course, you go across the country and everybody's got, but in Mississippi basketball, junior college basketball, you better be tough. If you're tough and you got some skill, then you got a chance to be a really good player. But if you don't have any toughness, if you could be really skilled and no toughness, you're not going to make it in Mississippi JUCO. It's a tough league. It's a physical league. It's a grinded out league. Our coaches in this league each year continue to get really, really good. It's competitive on that end, but and majority of the Mississippi kids, at least the ones we feel like we like to recruit and get, they are tough kids, and so they can overcome some things. I mean, I use that as a positive thing because when we go play outside the state, and we're in the Floridas and the Indianas, and I mean, I'm not just speaking on Northeast. I'm speaking on everybody in the junior college. The one thing that those teams might come back to us and say is, "Hey, them dudes play hard. Them dudes are tough." And that's a credit to high school coaches in Mississippi. That's a credit to kids in Mississippi that are trying to make it. And then, like I said, if you can take that kid's toughness and then all of a sudden you throw some skill level on it, then you got you a Division I or Division II, whatever the case might be, type player. And I think that's a credit to Mississippi because if you're soft, though, this league will eat you up.
Coach, it's a great league. I totally agree. I wish I would have started attending junior college games a whole lot earlier than I did because I didn't realize the skill level is high, the energy is high. I don't even want to say this because my first junior college game, it was when Macon was at home. Is it Daryl Macon?
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's Daryl.
Daryl Macon, yeah.
Yes, man, because we had a kid from Germantown that played at Colin, so we was going down to watch him play. And it's what you said, Coach. You never know the skill set you're going to see, but that was amazing to see that year. There's been a whole lot more players before and after, but there's just something that stood out to me when you said that about being tough. And I really like that you're expressing that because some people don't realize who are outside of our state or outside the game of the competition level. Coach, now with you saying that, how much of a challenge is it for you when the kid is a sophomore and obviously they want to go and play at the next level? What is the culture of your program when it talks about promoting? I know graduation. You and I talked about graduation before the podcast, how important that is. So we know that's number one. And number two, how do you all set that in place? Because you already know if you got 6 sophomores graduating, most likely all 6 want to go play somewhere. How do you work that process out? Because I know that can probably be a challenge as well.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the bigger challenges that you have. And I think that's a lot of times in our league what sometimes separates a team that's really good from winning or not winning. I thought a year ago we were really talented, but sometimes you can't get your team bought into understanding that winning will solve a lot of problems, because they sophomores get a little anxious. Hey, look, I got to get recruited, or they see another kid gets offers and it's like, why not? I'm not getting them, and I got to go score more points, or I got to go do this. And, naturally all of us to some degree got some selfishness about us, but in sports, you got to have that to be competitive. So there's a fine line of telling the kid, hey, look, I understand your selfishness, but for the betterment of yourself and this team, you got to buy into what we're all trying to do. And it's a hard thing to do. But you try to explain to them, express to them that, hey, look, if you do it this particular way, we win. Teams will come find you. Teams, nowadays with social media and everything else, you're hard not to be seen. So keep doing it the right way, play the right way, focus on winning. Teams will recruit kids from winning programs, and then, of course, we've been here now and we've had 40, 50 plus kids move on to the next level. So that in itself, you try to remind them through example, hey, look, man, such and such was just like you. I had a kid that averaged 5 points a game on a team that won 24 games and he went Division I. So you try to use examples to tell them, hey, look, it's not all about one particular thing. We win, he did this, you get here. So you got to keep their mind focused on the little things of that nature. You got to remind yourself that they're 18, 19-year-old young men that, they're in the process of growing. They're not grown yet. And they're like we were back then. You think that you got all the answers. You think you know the right path. And it's our job as coaches to make sure that we continue to funnel them in a positive direction, knowing that the betterment of it is to make sure they have success. And it's not easy to do. It's something that you got to kind of stay on them on a daily basis and remind them that what they're doing, the good, the bad, is going to get them in the right direction. And we try to do that the best we can with it. But I think that's the hardest thing you do, because they want to win for you, but they also want to get to that next level, and they got to truly trust in what you're doing as a team, a coach, a program. And I think we build that in recruiting, and they know we got their back. So for the most part, most of them buy in.
That's good, Coach, to share that, because that is important. Because when I was preparing for the interview, I just thought about the documentary on Netflix with Last Chance U, and that seemed to be always, and on the basketball segment of it, that always was seen like every player that he had in that particular area, they would always ask about recruitment in sophomores, and you could see the stress on his face about trying to get them somewhere. So I thank you for sharing that, Coach. And when you said that about kids playing and buying into their roles, I thought about Wesley Harris. Like, of course, he's from Cal. He went to Callaway. Obviously, I'm a metro area guy, and when I saw him on the West Virginia squad, and I thought he fit perfectly in what Bob Huggins was trying to do with his length and athleticism, and it was good to be able to see a kid from Mississippi play at West Virginia and be a part of what they brought that year. So I agree to you, Coach. And like you're saying, he could have probably done a lot of other things, but I'm not sure that's something that he already previously had or you implemented into him. But he really bought into his role. And I know he did a lot of that when he was in high school, obviously on the JUCO level as well, and it transitioned also to the college level. But that's just something that stuck out to me when you said that about Wesley.
Yeah, I mean, Wesley was a tremendous. He was a tough kid. I mean, he would literally fight you. He was a tough kid, but he had skill. He was one of the in that team. Shaq Buchanan. Shaq's one of the same in the same mold of, and Shaq's still playing now over in Greece, making money and doing his thing. And that's what I talked about earlier, was they were tough kids because they had to be, because that's what this league makes you. And then you throw some skill on top of it, and now you got an elite player. I mean, in this league's seen a bunch of them, and obviously those are two of the elite ones that have come through this league over since I've been here the last 11 years. And it's not easy. It's not easy. A lot of guys say, "Oh, I want to be like it." Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that makes them guys who they are. And junior college is an avenue for that to happen. I think I tell people, like kids on recruiting visits, Boonville is a great place. We're going to support you. They're going to love you. They're going to, and junior college is a place where in Boonville where there's enough to keep you busy, but not enough to get you in trouble. Take advantage of that. Get your books, get in the gym, do what you're supposed to. You want all those cool things that you see. They're there. They're just not at Boonville. They're at Oxford. They're at State. They're in Baton Rouge. You want to get to those levels, then put the work in now, and you'll get yourself paid off.
That's a good way to put it, Coach. It is important. You gotta put your time into the gym and make those develop those skills. And you are right about Shaq. I was at Germantown for a couple of years before I went to Pisgah, and of course, obviously Germantown and Madison Central played. So I was able to see Shaq when he was young and a high school kid, and just seeing him grow has been amazing. But yeah, he was challenging, cool. Of course, so athletic, man. That was the first thing. That's man. I think we played in the summer league, man. I think he just dunked all over a guy, man. It was amazing to be able to see that at the high school level. Coach, let's kind of switch over to a little bit of X's and O's, but it's a little not quite X's and O's. I know that you're big on the plus and minus thing. Coach, how do you talk? Let's talk us a little bit about that. How do you sell your kids? I don't want to say sell them like you're trying to manipulate them, but how do you implement the plus and minus system? And I like your thinking, Coach, because to me, what that tells me is you forward thinking in that, because you have the resources for it. I think y'all use synergy. I think that they say. I think it's synergy. Is that synergy? And they
Yeah.
share those things, but that's definitely what they do on the NBA level as well. It's based on a lot of plus and minus things of that nature. So, Coach, talk to us. Why did that grab you so much, and talk about how you implement that throughout your program?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I just talked about in terms of getting your team to buy in. I feel like I've been fortunate here that we have a bunch of really good players each and every year. We feel like we reload with a lot of talent. And so you got to get that talent to get on the same page. And, sometimes your leading scorer in high school might come to college and be a defender and be a rebounder. His path is different because of the talent around you. So, the plus minus system, what it does for us is we grade you out after every single game. And it helps us. Obviously, it's the most important thing is it's helping us try to win games. But we try to tell our guys that there's so many other ways to impact winning than just scoring a ball. And a good example at times, there's some nights where this year one of our kids might have had 25 points, but he was a +8 for the game. So all he did that night was really score. Where another kid might have had 8 points, but you look up and he was a +16 because he blocked some shots, he took some charges, he got some loose balls, he rebounded the ball, he made some assists, and so he impacted the game a lot more than the other guy, and not to say they both didn't help winning, but so we try to get our guys to understand that, yes, look, we want to score as many points we possibly can. I love for you to never miss a shot, but realistically, that ball's got to move. And the more that it's moving, the more that we're all involved, the more that, hey, look, tonight's, we like to, one of our philosophies in recruiting is recruit your offense, coach your defense. So we got guys that we feel like can always put the ball in a hole. So we got to get them to understand that maybe that's not your night. So if it's not your night, Caleb Parr, for example, for us this past year was a tremendous player going to sign Division I at Queens, and he was a really good shooter. Well, I'd always tell Caleb his freshman year, okay, if you're not making shots, do I just not play you? Well, no, coach, I want to play. Well, then how else are you going to impact the game? Because there's going to be nights where as good a shooter you are, you're going to miss. And that plus minus sheet gives them something to physically look at. I can tell you certain things all day, and film can show you some things. But when you sit in that film room and you got that plus minus sheet, and and it's a humbling thing at times too, which I think is huge. Obviously you got to praise your guys, but as whether it's coaches or players, we all got to be humble to understand. And there's days they come bebopping in there, and he's had 32 points, and we won last night. And you say, sit down and watch this film, and I say, look, man, like you're excited about last night, but you're a +7, man. Like, because you didn't do this, this, and this. So I really feel like it's a key to what we do. And this year was an example. Like we had some injuries. We had some guys that didn't make it to a certain point of the season. And so we had to make some adjustments. We had 4 starters pretty much all year long. And when we went to that next spot, we, as coaches, sat around and said, well, should we go a little bit bigger with this guy, or should we go smaller with this guy, or should we put another shooter on? We were kind of trying to. And so what we did, we went back and we grabbed the plus minus sheets from the previous, I think it was like 12 or 14 games, and started grading them out again and looking and saying, you know what, this guy right here is really done well as what's put him in there. And ended up being kid Ronnie Ellis from Connecticut. And Ronnie ended up averaging about 9. It was right when league play started, averaged about 9 a game for us, and was really that 5th guy. But, last home game of the year or first round of the region tournament, he hits 2 big threes late against Pearl River. We go from a 9-point game to a 15-point game, and we win going away. So that's just, everybody's got their system and what works and how they like to. And so we go to that plus minus, and I think it's a good thing for us coaches because same thing. After games, you might look at the stat sheet and say, oh, man, such and such really good. You go back and look at the plus minus and say, you know what? He really wasn't as good as you thought. So, and then it keeps us all kind of a good checks and balance.
Coach, that's amazing. And I'm going to look more at our plus and minus as well, because I like what you said. And I agree. We can, being transparent, sometimes we do get caught up in the scores and the winning. But again, there are other things that makes a difference, because I know like all coaches understanding that the small things matter. So you want to keep getting better at the small things. Coach, I got a few more questions that I'm gonna wrap this up, because I got so much, man, but I don't want to take all your time. And when I said the small things, Coach, I was looking at your season. If I'm not mistaken, you went 15-1 going into the conference play. And then you don't really lose too many more outside of that. But Coach, this is one of the toughest parts of being a coach. And I don't know if people understand this until you're in that spot. But winning is hard, coach. Like night in and night out, winning is so tough. And I know to some it may sound crazy, but when you're rolling and you're winning games, you know that each and every opponent's giving you their best shot. And like you said, you're trying to make sure we got everything sold up because you don't want any leaks in your boat. You don't want anything to go wrong. But coach, just kind of just talk to us. I'm gonna ask you a three-part question so to kind of move a little bit faster, but kind of talk to us about the season as you kind of move through that. Kind of share about that your last game of the season. Again, it was definitely, I know it wasn't how you want it to end, and I'm not sure if it's something in there that you can share that we probably look at and see something differently. And then when you kind of wrap up with that, coach, I know some people are here to support you, so I'd like to talk a little bit about your players, and just your assistant coaches. I know you talked about Coach Morris a little bit, but people always come out when you post it. They want to be able to see, I see Coach on there. Maybe he may say my name or things of that nature, or your faithful Tiger fan. So just kind of talk about the season and just the challenges of being so successful. Talk about just kind of the last game when you played Gulf Coast, and then just kind of shout out some of your players and your coaches as we kind of transition.
Yeah, well, like you said, overall we were 27-5. So on paper, that was a really good year. There's probably a lot of teams in the country that like to finish the season with that particular record. And so, what was on top of that, we had two guys that came back from last year's team. So we coming into this year, I mean, our expectations every year are to win. But
Yeah.
like you stated, I mean, winning. I tell our guys all the time, and I think sometimes in high school you can win some games just by pure talent or scheduling and different things of that nature. And it kind of, not to take away from it, believe me, but
No,
I've learned through all my years in college that winning is just the hardest thing you do. I mean, and so I always, number one, tell our guys, we got to celebrate winning. Now, not for very long. You got to turn around and let it die the next day and get back to work. But, you put a lot of time, effort into these games, and so, the expectations coming to the year, besides winning, it was just, hey, look, man, we got a group of guys that have never really played together. Two guys that came back from last year's squad, which my point guard, Allen Hughes, and my two guard, Caleb Parr, which were the staple of our team anyway. And two tremendous young men, both on and off the floor. So we were in good hands. One was a point guard, one was a two guard. So coming into it, we knew we had two good people there. And then we felt like we'd recruited a group that was going to have some success. How much we had, we didn't know because there was so much unknowns when you get into this. But we did start off the preseason non-conference schedule, 15-1. One loss being at Middle Area, who was top 5 in the country at one particular time, extremely loaded. I mean, and beat us good. And it was one of those deals where you never want to get beat bad, but you also, when we left the floor that night, it woke some guys up to, hey, look, yeah, we got a good team, but that's a really good team. And what made them so good was how hard they played, how tough they were. And we weren't that night, and so we learned, hey, look, you let your guard down, you're going to get popped. And so I think it kind of changed the mindset of a couple of guys. Got a chance to really see some true players, some real D1 guys. And then, we got into league play. And we always joke in our league, and not really joke, but we say, basketball don't start till we get to conference. All the preseason stuff, whether you're 15-1 or 6-6, it don't matter. When we get to league play, it's a whole new ball game. Our league is so competitive, it's so tough. I don't care if you're the number 1 team or the 15 team. You better be ready to play because anybody can get beat. And so we started off league play 1-2, and got beat at home, which I don't know exact numbers, but I think our SID said over the last 10 years, we're 98-12 at home or something. I mean, it's hard to come up here and beat us, and we had lost at home, and it kind of threw us for a loop. And it really, now here we are now, we're, I don't know, maybe 16-3 at the time, and kind of 1-2 in conference. And it was a kind of a gut check. It was one of those situations. Our next game was going to be on the road. Not exactly sure who it was supposed to be, but it was an opportunity. I mean, our guys had to really kind of figure out who they are, what we're about, what we're going to do. We're going to lay down and cry about being 1-2. Chances to win the league probably slipped away some. We're going to have to run the table. We knew we had some tough road games. And I'll give credit, to our two sophomores, Alan and Caleb. They came to work the next day. They came to practice every other day. They said, look, the thing's going to change. It's not this and this. It's us. We got to do some things differently. And because those two kids were such good leaders, the other guys already bought in. And now it's not me trying to coach the team. I got two of my better players trying to lead this group. And we went on the road. I can't remember who we played that night, but we obviously won. And you went on the road and won. Okay, man, huh? It was Meridian.
Yeah.
I think it was Meridian.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
64.
And that, to tell you that story, we were down 15, 16 at some point, playing terrible. Like I said, we're 1-2. Things aren't good. We're playing terrible. We're on the road. Meridian is a hard place to play. James Green is as good as a coach as anybody can coach against in this league. And here we are down 12, 15 at one point. I think we get to halftime down 11 or 13. We come out second half, we held them to like 14 points and won the game by like 12. And that excitement in the locker room and seeing the Allen and the Calebs talk to the other guys about, hey, look, this is about to change. This is what we're about, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of snowballed. Came back home, 1-1. They went on the road and 1-1. And it just kind of it was a turning point for us was that win at Meridian. That maybe, got us back on the right track. I think we ran off like 8 or 9 in a row, lost another one, and then got into the region tournament. And then, we finished the year, won our last game at home versus Pearl River. And so we split with Jones as far as regular season champions. And then we had to do what we've always had a good rival with Pearl River. They've been one of the best out of the South year in and year out. And so we played them the last game of the regular season. Then we got to turn around and play them the first game in the region tournament. And so you naturally are like, and Coach Oney's a great coach, and he's always got good players. And you're like, and beating somebody twice in one season is always tough, but beating them back to back. I mean, that was our last two, and I'm like, well, this ain't what we signed up for. But it was at home, and so our guys felt great about it. Anyway, we came out, played well, and beat them. Went to the region tournament down there in Biloxi. Biloxi. Should have went to Biloxi the way we played. It might have been where my team was. But no, we go down to Jackson, man, and we just didn't have it. It was by far the worst we had played all year. And looking back, I don't have any answers. Obviously you got to credit Gulf Coast because they came out ready to go. But we had a good shoot around. Guys were feeling good about it. We had a good walkthrough, our film. Everything was a typical day, Felt really good going into it. We had played Gulf Coast here at our place earlier, beat them. But, I mean, it was a close game, and we had to come from behind and make some plays. So we didn't overlook them. And but it was one of those nights, man. And I will say, like, the one thing that made or maybe two things that made our team really good, I thought, were, number one, we didn't turn the ball over. We averaged about 11 turnovers a night, which the pace we try to play with is extremely high. So that's a good number to be at. And then we were tough kids. They never thought they were in or out of a game, So those two things held us. Well, Gulf Coast turns us over 17 times in the first half. And, we, on top of the fact that we couldn't score, then they guarded us to where we missed some shots. And it was just a perfect storm for us. And the good part was, I think the last 9 minutes of the game, Tougaloo's scoreboard broke, and they couldn't turn it on. It went off, and so I don't know what the final score was. I told Owen Miller that I think he beat me at the buzzer. I couldn't really remember, but I know he didn't. He whooped us, but there's no proof on that scoreboard. So when I walked out of there, I think he beat us by 1.
That's a good story, Coach. I didn't even know that happened. I missed that.
Like I said, you didn't miss much at the end of the game. But, yeah, the scoreboard went out. The stuff went crazy in there for a while. Of course, it's late in the night. Everybody's an hour and a half behind the normal game time. We're getting drilled. We're just sitting there like, hey, look, man, let's just go, And but we just finished the game on this good old JUCO story, I guess. We finished the game with a stopwatch and somebody hollering out the shot clock. So an interesting finish, but nonetheless, Gulf Coast was obviously the way better team that day. And But I think that's our league. I thought all year long, Jones was really, really good. I said multiple times to people we were talking across the league. I said I think Gulf Coast is a wild card, man. I think they got every piece that you need. The way they play, their toughness. I said they're going to be a hard out, and of course, not to think I was going to get them in the semifinals, but I got them and they got us. And as good a year it was, again, you get humbled very quickly in this business. So just got us back to work and on the recruiting and trying to fix that problem so we don't run across it again next year.
Coach, I love that you gave us a bird's eye view of to how the season goes, because it's so many different things that happen in the season, coach. And again, just the pressure of winning, 1-2 in conference. Then, like you say, y'all did win eight. Y'all won 8 after that one in a row, and then just playing in a game where the clock goes out. You play against Gulf Coast. So it's just always, you just never know what a season. And again, that's why I advocate that, especially coaches, when you can take maybe a couple of days off after the season. I think it just does so many wonders for you. It's hard to do because you want to get back at it, but the literally a basketball season is like a 12-round boxing match, man. It's so many different things, and it takes a lot out of you. And coach, y'all had a great season, and I know you're gonna definitely be back there because you've been doing it for so long. So just blessing that you all continue to do that. Coach, it's been a great interview, but I can't let you get out with one of our most favorite questions that we ask all of our men's or boys basketball coaches. We talk about the all-time starting 5 NBA. So, Coach, what would be your all-time starting 5 NBA lineup? If you had to get a lineup with 5 guys to be dead or alive, Coach Wright, who's in your starting 5?
Starting 5. Let's see. I get a little biased because I got to play some favoritism, but I'm going to have, obviously, I'm going to go Steph Curry as my point. I'm going to go Michael Jordan, hands down. Yeah. I'm going to go Kobe Bryant. I know I'm going to put Shaq at my 5. And then at the 4, I love KD, but I'm going to go Larry Bird, man. The old school there. And I always come off the bench with Joe Dumars because my dad coached him at McNeese. So I always keep Joe as my 6th man. But so that's why I'll say Steph, MJ, Kobe. I know I should say LeBron, but my assistant loves LeBron, and that's our love-hate relationship. And I got to stay away from LeBron. So I'm gonna throw Bird in there, and then like I said, Shaq. And I'm a Louisiana guy, so I got to keep Shaq, Joe Dumars, them guys hanging around for me.
Yeah, Coach, I like that lineup. As I'm starting to see more and more throughout the podcast, Steph Curry is getting a lot of more votes than Magic. And I try to tell one of my buddies, man, I said, it's kind of the change of tide a little bit, but it's just he does so many different things. MJ has been on every list. I haven't had one that hasn't had MJ on the list. Kobe, Bird, and Shaq. That's a great lineup, man. So, and Coach, I like that.
It's hard to leave Magic off. And that was my 1B, I guess, if I had it. But I figured Steph with today's time, today's game, he's hard not to pull for it too. He's fun to watch. So I went ahead with Curry.
And that's cool, Coach. Coach, again, I thank you for your time. This has been an amazing interview. You dropped so much knowledge for us, and I'm really hoping that coaches take the time and listen because, again, you giving out free knowledge, Coach, and I'm appreciative of it. Coach, as we wrap up the show, this is my segment where I call the last shot, and in the last shot, I allow our guests to be able to close the show by either having a shout out, maybe leave us with a final note or a final idea or challenge us. Just any way you want to close the show, Coach. It's not a right or wrong answer. So, Coach Wright, take the final shot.
Man, I just want to thank you. I think there's multiple podcasts out there. I've been on a few this year. You do a tremendous job, and I think it's awesome to be on these type of platforms to be able to speak. I think the Mississippi, junior college, high school, all basketball across the state is a wonderful thing that I've been a part of. I've really been fortunate. I can't thank the people that put me in this situation, from the coaches we talked about earlier in the podcast, in terms of helped me get to where I'm at. But most importantly, man, the administration here, the players that I've had that have played for me, that have played with me now, and I got coming in, they make up everything of who I am and what I'm doing. And I hope I can keep trying to give back as much as I possibly can. I did learn a few years ago, winning is very important, but that's not why we do what we do. And seeing these kids move on to different levels and do what they're doing is the biggest win I've had. I want to continue to do that, and I'm fortunate to be in this situation. And I'm very, again, thankful for you calling me to do this. Anytime we can speak on our programs and kids in Mississippi and across the country, I'm all for it. So I just, again, thank you for your time, and hopefully this thing gets out to a bunch of people watching and continues to build your brand.
Coach Wright, I appreciate you for saying that, and I just thank you again from the bottom of my heart for just answering back, because I told people a lot of times, sometimes I throw my net out there or I throw my reel out there, never know what I expect, but man, from the beginning, you were very welcoming, and I appreciate you, because just you being on allows other people to say, man, we're really trying to produce some good content and really trying to make a difference. So, I mean, to the bottom of my heart, I'm grateful for you. Supporters of In the Sand podcast, as I always say, make sure you support our guests, make sure you support Coach Wright, support Northeast Mississippi Community College basketball, and all that they do, because it makes a difference. Your support makes a major, major difference. So until the next episode, as I always say, be nice, be kind, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Appreciate you.